So welcome to my Trials of Mana review. Tell you here immediately, I have played the original game over more than 20 times, and this game is just really amazing. Everything in this game is better and it's more fleshed out. But of course this review will be as you never played the game. So, Trials of Mana review, let's start talking about the game. And this review then is the first in my Man of Culture series review. So I talk about everything that's good and bad in the game. Of course, a very brutal honest review, as always. We're covering everything from waifus to if the game is hard enough, right, and so on. So anyway, let's start from the beginning, talking about Trials of Mana. So when you start playing Trials of Mana, you're gonna see the first feature the game is so famous for in the game as well then. Of course, you're actually playing 3 out of 6 characters. And this is very important in the game because these 3 characters you pick here are actually the 3 characters you only will play. And to then play the other characters you replay the game. So that's what the game is famous for, right? Replayability is the same here. And this will be a very minor spoiler now. The only spoiler I ever say. But of course, depending on who your main character is, you will also then have a different somewhat ending, different end bosses, right, different end dungeon and so on, right. So about the last few hours in the game are gonna be different depending on who your main character is. And also depending on the order you pick your companions, they're gonna team up with you differently and so on. So that's one of those classic premises that Trials of Mana has, right. And that, as mentioned of course, adds into replayability, but it also is combining into the character development. We'll talk about shortly here. That's one of the games very famous for, how you also design your character, dark and light paths and so on. But first of all, I just want to break down just kind of how the story is, just generally. So if you're an anime fan, you are definitely gonna feel the very typical how JRPG classic Seiken is. It's all about dead parents, sad backstory, revenge for dead friends and so on, right? So it's basically very similar to One Piece or Naruto. So for example, it's very similar to having that sad backstory where no one loves you, everyone's the enemy, you're either betrayed by someone you love, so right, and then the character, of course, plays into the world in this story, right? So you definitely will see the classic familiarity with Japanese background, motivational character backstories in this game. So every character has, as I mentioned, a sad backstory. And it's very classic. I mean classic, the game is of course very true to its main story. And I can say this thing immediately here, if you like the main story, and it's afraid that it goes about FF7 Remake rules where it changes the story, this game is opposite of that. This game is 100% true to the main story, and it adds cutscenes and adds it more longer dialogue and so on. But otherwise it's 100% the same story. So again then, it really feels like it's an old game for the 90s, right? You really get that. Everyone has a sad backstory, everyone has, lacking either their parent or the parent's gonna betray them, or both, right? And it's all about how the character first set out into the world to save their friend or similar, and then of course that turns into some kind of main journey, right? How is this gonna, take them from, I just wanna save my best friend, I wanna, get revenge, and that then leads into, right, saving the planet, right? So it's very easy, classic JRPG feel. If you've played similar role-playing games from Japan, you definitely can see, as I mentioned, if you watch anime or manga and so on, you're definitely gonna feel a very similar touch to most of the shonen manga anime out there, right? It is very much that. But as mentioned then, the difference of course is that where they love the evil empire in the Swedish games, in this game is that you have 3 evil empires, right? And as mentioned then, depending on what character you pick, you get different main stories. So that's really good in the game. Another game thing that adds into this game is that now every character has more of an emotional journey when you're actually approaching different stuff and so on. For example, when you're playing as Kevin and reaches the desert area, it's gonna complain now about, oh, it's so hot and so on, right? And you read, because it's a werewolf, it's fur, right? But if you reach the Ice Kingdom, it's gonna be, oh, it's perfect here, I can survive this easily, right? Where instead Rice will complain that it's too cold, right? So if you're playing with Rice, she's gonna be like, oh, I got my outfit, I can't handle this cold kingdom, right? I wonder why. And that really adds into, again, soft stuff that the original game didn't have, right? So it's even more now interesting to play with different characters, different teams and so on, and see where they are standing in the village and how they are talking and giving you some dialogue for every city and every place in the game and so on, right? So a little extra into the fleshing out the character and its personality and so on. And yeah, Rice complains a lot about it is cold for some reason. I would like to also add in that I find the Japanese voice acting very good. It was very fitting for the characters. They're keeping the Kevin and Charlotte speak issue and so on, right? However, as always, the English voice acting is pretty poor, so don't play it on English. Why would you, right? And you can also decide if you have the original or the new soundtrack. Of course, both are amazing, and so on. Now then, I want to talk about character development. So normally I find it strange to talk about character development before we talk about the actual combat system. But this is a large part of Path of Mana and then Seiken Densetsu, right? That you have two different dark or light path classes. And depending on how you play the game, then this is very, very important decision making here, right? And this also then, as talked about earlier, of course, goes back to the replayability. That you want to play maybe light Kevin the first playthrough, and then dark Kevin second playthrough and so on. So you have a lot of these options there. So first of all, it's not anything like other class system games has. First of all, it's nothing like, for example, Fire Emblem Classes or the Fire Emblem games, right? Or Tactics Ogre or whatever. The classes in those games, usually you have several different classes, right? For one gender or one monster or whatever, right? And they can be 10 different sides. They might be somewhat similar, some are very different, and then they have upgrade forms. No, in Trials of Mana instead, the light and dark are very different. They usually are like a binary opposite. For example, Rise Light gets buffs, while Rise Dark gets debuffs. So they're quite the opposite of each other instead. And then again, the game's replayability comes a lot from making decision making. However, no, if you play the original game, this game is even better at this stuff. So every class, not only do they have the classic abilities, like for example, light Kevin can heal, dark Kevin gets more damage, but now they also have new passive per class, and both class passive, and then they also have attribute passive, depending on how you are leveling up your character and what stats you get and so on. And also, of course, you have different strikes abilities, etc. So in the original game, you would use pick your class, right, and you will get like the basic ability the class got. For example, if you're playing Kevin, you will get healed when you level up as a light class. But now instead, the game has really made a nice system here, where you get your class up, it gets your new abilities, for Rise save to buffs there, as I mentioned, but you have to put 9 points into Rise to get the buffs. So now you have to also take the system back. Do I want to get the buffs? Well, probably, but then I won't be able to get, the damage boost, right, or the agility, or the luck boost, and so on, right. There's a lot of things here. Does Duran want that healing, the holy saber? 21 levels into spirit. That's gonna make Duran a way worse character by himself, right? Less damage, less tanking, but he can now buff Kevin with the holy saber. That makes Kevin a lot stronger, right? So it's a lot more decision making, a lot critical thinking here. So I'm actually very, very happy with the character development in the game here. Again, they're using the classic dark light paths, and if you then after one dark light path, you get another one, so you get dark, dark, light, dark, and so on. But now also adding this attribute system is really, really nice. And the way it works too is that for example, critical smash here, you can then learn that ability and then give it to the other characters. So it's not only that you learn new passive, but you can move them around. So the critical thinking in the game now, it is really, really great. And it's something I paused here, and I want to really explain this here. The combat system in the game, it is a lot better in the real game, but it's quite easy. But one thing I realized doing this review and compared to the game and so on, is that the game, from its good side, and what I realized looking at the game again is that it's actually quite similar to, for example, Hearthstone or Magic, right, or Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever. Basically in the sense that when you're building up your character, both in stats-wise and how you are pre-planning, okay, I'm gonna play Duran as light, that makes him be weaker in the middle game, but then because you don't get his sabers as dark path goes, but as light, like at holy saber, this is the best saber, so then I have a better late game. That kind of mentality, you enter the battle, right, the boss, you defeat the boss easily and so on, that gives you a good feeling because it's similar, I think then, to for example a card game, right, where you're setting up your team, you're thinking about your deck, right, thinking about the composition of different characters and so on. So the game has that really good feeling of, okay, how do I play the game? And that reason then, when you come to the combat system here, the combat system is better as I mentioned in the original game, but sometimes it's very, very easy, but it still, to some extent, feels rewarding because it's easy because you did the perfect build, right? Because you built the perfect deck of character, you move your passives around, and the combination of these characters are just so perfect, right? This is my legendary deck for that matter in Hearthstone here. But yeah, the perfect combination, right, makes it feel. So when I play in the game and when I'm beating the boss too easily, so the boss just die immediately, I still feel like somewhat happy because it's thanks to my perfect build, right? Okay, let's talk the combat system. First of all, you have 4 different difficulty modes: beginner, easy, normal, and hard. Unfortunately, here as we say is the biggest complaint of the game. Not that the combat system itself is bad, but it's very easy even on hard. Not saying that every boss battle is a breeze, but it definitely could have been, like hard could have been easy, it could be an extra game mode or whatever, right? So it has to be said, unfortunately, as in many modern games, it could have been harder. So the actual combat system is quite simple. You use fighting the characters, you can always see the enemies from distance, there's no enemy encounters. Go into them, you get a little circle, you have to fight them. If you go a circle, you escape and so on. And you can use hack and slash them down, right? You have different combos, depending on your input. Here I will say I felt the game should have more combos than the game has right now. When you class up, you get more and more combos, right? But you can have more than at the end of the game. You have now a strong attack that breaks armor, and of course you have a special attack that costs a meter. And of course then, as mentioned earlier, depending on what class you turn into, you get different special abilities, different kind of... They include both magic but also different special attacks, right? And they cost meter then, and that's part of the game, of course. Think of what special finisher do I want, right? Some are definitely better than others. Some of the balance of the game is definitely more special strike. So the game is a free movie. You can change character seemingly with no problem. You can always play whoever you want, which I actually really like in this game. So basically, if you're playing, for example, here and Kevin is the main character, you can still play the whole game as Rice, soon as he's recruited, and the game doesn't ever force you to play the other character. And in battle, you could always so on. When you're playing as this commando kind of party commander game, of course, the other 2 characters are controlled by your AI. The AI system isn't perfect, but you can set them to different. Should they attack you? Should they heal you? Should they buff you? Should they go, close to the enemy? Should they tank and so on? I have to say I found the AI system pretty good actually. It's not the best again, it's not gambling system, but they will do what they, what they should do. They will heal you when you take damage and so on. And all that feels pretty seemingly, and I wish actually more games would have this kind of simple but yet working system. The bosses in the game are a lot better. So of course they're all the same bosses, right, in the game. But every boss fight now, it's so much more interesting. Where the bosses have different mechanics you have to avoid. There will summon different stuff, and you have to think about the big red areas basically. But it's a lot more that, and that makes the game boss battle feel so much better than it did in the original game. Not saying this is the best fighting combat game system ever, but compared to the original, it's a lot better. And that makes every boss battle, of course, more interesting. Some of them are actually, I think, really a lot better than the original game. Like, I'm shocked how good one of the bosses, I don't want to spoil here, but the one boss battle was like amazing how much better boss it was. Unfortunately, one issue we have to say here then, because combat definitely is one of the weaker parts of the game. It's horrible, but one issue is that, as mentioned before, it is very, very easy, even on hard. But an issue then from the original game is that in the original game, if the bosses did some of their best abilities, you couldn't avoid them. You hit the whole screen, if you cut off the whole screen, and you just take a lot of damage. That's it. In this game instead, you can always avoid all the boss abilities because it's more free movement, right? And that makes it be a little bit easier. Every boss has this kind of gimmick thing where they will summon something to destroy. Sometimes destroying stuff is actually quite hard, it's pretty easy, and when you do that, they get into the weaker state where you can use to damage them. And this is true for for every boss basically. So it's a little bit. I like it as added. Again, compared to original, it is definitely better, but I wish it was different, right? I wish the boss had different moves than just this. And it's kind of like every boss has the thing going for them. Some are harder, like I mentioned, but still though. And if you fail them then, the difficulty is kind of set in this thing, right? So as I mentioned, if you fail them here, you will die immediately. And it's always kind of the same thing. So you save your meter for this thing, depending on what the character you have, might have magic to attack them and so on. But again though, that's part of the game, but if you didn't prepare correctly for the boss, if you have the wrong team for the boss and so on, you will have issues. And one thing you have to remember in this game here, which is one of the things of the game, is the game isn't actually that linear. if you're playing the game after the first 10 hours of the game. But yeah, you know, after a bit in there, it's necessarily that line here. What I mean with that is that depending on what order you play, you're gonna fight these element bosses in different orders. And that's actually quite a classic ingenious thing of Seiken 3 and unfortunately of all kinds of mana, right? Because depending then on the order you pick, right, you're gonna have it easier or harder. So for example, if you're playing as Kevin, you wanna take the werewolf boss last because he's always gonna be knight at moon power, and he's always gonna be in werewolf form, which can help the boss immensely, right? If you have Angela with very strong fire magic, you might wanna take this ice boss later because then of course she's strong against the ice boss, right? Elements in the game is quite binary, and what I mean with that is that fire magic counters ice magic, ice counters fire, and then wind, lightning, and counters earth. So it's kind of like back and forth, of course, at the dark counter each other, and nothing kinda not counters moon and dry. They get kind of controlled, but they aren't really any strong moon right saber. But whatever. So it's a lot of strategy there. Have to, as mentioned then, building up your party, right? What passive you have, if you're going light or dark, and then depending on the order you want to fight the boss, right? And it even extends then to the last bosses of the game, because they are different, as I mentioned earlier. I don't want to spoil what they do, but they're different depending on your main character. So if you really play the game a lot, you take that extension, say, well, this is the last boss, so I want to go light, draw. He's going to get this last boss, right? So the game is all about, as I mentioned, then, pre-planning, right? Being sort of prepared to what you're gonna fight. Let's talk the level design. The level design in the game is actually really good. And I mean design, you know, but the level design in this game is surprisingly to me that how much better it is. So basically, all the dungeons have platform elements, a lot of secret items to find, little characters to find, and so on. And it makes it a lot better. It's just, you always find stuff and so on, and it actually has some rewarding items too. For example, the question seeds, which are important for your class upgrade. So the thing is that, I always say this thing, in the beginning of the game, the dungeons are just longer and more fleshed out than the original game. But they do have one issue, and that is that while they have the really good JRPG feel to it, that every corner you get to, every little exit you enter and so on, it's going to have at least one item, right? Which is really good. So you travel around and you find an item which you really want to experience, right? But on the same time though, for the middle of the game, they're never gonna have any weapons. Never gonna be actually an interesting item when you find them. So that's a little unfortunate. But when you get later, about halfway in the game or so, you're actually gonna always have at least one cactus and also then one question seed or a rainbow seed, which then turn into randomized item or randomized class items. So in the half of the game, the level design is actually top notch. They also added in like hidden items and treasures and traps and so on, right? So it actually is really fun, even though I played the original game so many times, to replay these new 3D dungeons and finding all the items and so on. And it feels rewarding. And again, I really like that no matter where you go, it's always like more there. So even as a veteran player, that's really fun just exploring and running around in the city, because every city now is in 3D, right? There's always a little cactus or chest city, and you can also now learn abilities, like new passives, sort of actually really good passives, by talking to everyone in the village, even pets and so on might give you passives. Really, you know, incentivize you to explore. And this might sound kind of silly to say, but you can jump now and just give you the kind of the freedom to, you know, get around faster in places. It kind of feels pretty good. It fits the kind of SNES feel to it, but it still breaks the SNES thing because you're not stuck in 2D anymore, you're in 3D, right? And it just feels like a nice feeling when you explore the game. So yeah, explore the game is really fun. Of course, all the characters has the same, you know, attitude. The shopkeeper is still dancing behind, and it has the kind of same feeling, right? And it's just a really nice, kind of wholesome game. So let's talk about the waifus. No, I mean graphics. Okay, waifus, right? No, but first of all, there was this thing in this game that was known that they were gonna censor Angela's butt cheek. So Angela had like a weird, you know, and that's removed in the game, but she still looks super skimpy. Look at that over there. Look, like, it looks crazy, right? So it's kind of weird because both with Angela and with Rice, they're keeping this like super, even I guess more revealing. And I'm even censoring the version with Rice now because that one is sexy, yeah. So that thing is cool, and the character generally look really great, right? I would say that Rice, for that matter, the furthest to the right there, the one is a helmet one, it looks actually a lot better in game than it does when she's standing still. It's kind of a weird helmet, but it looks fine when she's actually moving. So anyway, so the game is, you know, very true to the SNES graphic, kind of the, no man of culture game. Come on, yeah, it's a great graphic there, and of course, not just the girls, right? You can also play, Duran. He runs around half naked in his barbarian outfits, but like metal pants and nothing else. And they look very anime, right? And for that matter, as I mentioned, right, for example, Kevin does his Zero Strike and so on, and he has a Kamehameha and so on. So the game is it feels very Japanese, right? We have the humor of the dancing, some of the comedy jokes, but also then how the characters, not how they look, but also their actual abilities, right? They feel very anime, especially Kevin. He's like a Dragon Ball character. And for that matter, that being Kevin, right? Look at Kevin's abs. So the studios with the girls, Kevin has the freaking muscular, male gyro, freaking hen character abs, right? 8-pack abs. The gyro look, a tan, hot body, right, and the blonde hair, and it's all awesome. However, though, this wouldn't be, one of my reviews if I wasn't very nitpicky and like, but this thing and so on. Don't worry, I'm gonna get a great score at the end, but I have to say that I feel it's definitely not fair, though, when it comes to the character and different classes. So, for example, Kevin in the original game would have like purple hair and teal hair and green hair or something. He would have different kind of hair colors and his outfits would be more strange. In this game, he just keeps that male gyro look no matter what you do. So all of his class has the exact same hairstyle and hair color. And the same for the girls. So the girls will always be, basically, they will have different outfits, right? Some more revealing than others. It's like very revealing. But they will still be kind of the same, hair color, and they will look the same, but they will have different, cleavage. So, yeah, but they're kind of the same, right? In the original games, the artwork of the characters looked more diverse, looked more crazy and different and so on, depending on what spec you for. So I do find the game lacks a little bit of polish. And it's also true then, while we are the graphics here, that when the game starts a cutscene, it's hard to explain, but basically, when the cutscene starts, the face can be like this. And then you see that they kind of force change the face of the character, and then the character has like a better looking face. So basically, it's like the map, the lighting map, or the mesh, whatever they're using in the graphic engine hasn't really preloaded correctly. So the game is like kind of weirdly doing that. And it's very, very noticeable. It's like a big deal, but you see it almost every time, and it's harder to see it. So the game, unfortunately, lacks on polish there, right? And I think that if the game was like a $40 game, the game costs like, I paid $45, so not that big, much more. But if the game was like, set for like a $40 everywhere budget price, I would probably easily give this game 10 out of 10. But now I feel there's a lot of polishes that's kind of weird. I'll say one thing too here, where I go and talk about the positive content. One more thing here is that the localization is so bad. So okay, I'm not gonna score it down for that. But man, the text in English is something unreadable. And well, man, it's like, there are so many bugs. You have abilities that are clearly the same ability, like the first, second ability has an ability, but it's better stats of it. They have different names, but in Japanese, and it's the same name. Of course, it should be the same name. It's like attack power 1, attack power 2, right? But in English, they sometimes have different names for it. So it feels really unpolished when it comes to the text actually of the game and how to translate the characters and so on. It's kind of weird, but I won't score it down for that because in Japanese, that's the real version, right? It looks fine. I played a bit in Japanese, again, and there's fine there. But it's a strange thing, and it has a lot of weird portions. But anyway, let's talk about the post-game content. So I don't want to spoil it for you guys, right? But I have to say this thing here. I wouldn't call it spoiler, I'm not going to the storyline or whatever. But there is post-game content now. So for a veteran player like me, if you play the original game like I've done several times, this is also really exciting. You have actually new abilities, new stuff and so on. Some extra story elements. There was especially, I think, one story thing which I really love with Kevin, added that into the game after you beat the game. And they even have like another 3 roughly hours, some extra boss battle. And the super boss of the original game is back now in a better version. So that's a Trials of Mana review. And, I really love the game. As I mentioned here briefly, right, it has post-game content. There's an extra boss now. The secret super boss in the game is now in every dungeon, and it's easier to get it to. UX design is good. and so on. So the game is just better, right? It's a SNES game, but it's better than everything from one of the best SNES games ever made. A true cultural, JRPG game. This is all great. But I have to say a few things then, of course, that I feel is lower in the score. I'm not going to give it the perfect score, but I'm almost perfect score, right? And I think the first thing is, if to address, it is not multiplayer. So if you look at my link below here, for my ref review, that the game was multiplayer in the original game was a big thing. You play with your brother, with your sister, with your father, with your mother, and so on. You will play the game with your friends, and that was a big thing for the JRPG thing. That this and Secret of Mana and so on was a few JRPG games with multiplayer, right? And you would then, for example, I think it's fair to say, I think that if you're a new player in this game, I would recommend it. I think it's fair to say you have roughly about 40 hours of playtime. You play it twice, 40 hours, and then you probably put it on shelf, right? Maybe wait for a few years, maybe half a year, and then play it again with other characters. But if you have multiplayer, you may play it twice, right? And then some friend visit a month later. You want to play this game? You can play 2-player. So that is removed from this game, right? You can't play 2-player, and also maybe your first playthrough you play as Kevin, your brother plays Duran, and then the next time you want to play Duran, and he can play somebody. Yeah, so a little bit of that is missing, right? I think that's unfortunate. And then, man, I really wish the game would have some kind of super hard, right? Something like, for example, I play a lot of Fire Emblem, Three Houses, and I would love if the game has some kind of like maddening mode, right? Even if it was just like every enemy is twice as strong and you have half the life points or whatever. But it's something that made the game actually challenging. I did die a few times. There were a few bosses that kind of killed me. But I wish it had something like that, right? And it would make the whole... when you get the New Game Plus, you can actually move over abilities now to a new character set. And that would make it a bit more interesting, right? If the game has something really, really hard. Now even the last bosses, extra bosses, aren't that hard. So moving over your abilities isn't that important. It's pretty cool to just like get every ability on one character, right? It's pretty cool, but you don't need to. You can still beat the boss, right? So I think that's lacking there, and I feel that's kind of like my issue with the game. It doesn't feel polished enough, right? And not just, I mentioned, from the graphic, but also from the balance. Because not just lacking a better system of hard mode, but there are also a lot of abilities that are kind of useless. Like, oh, you get healed after the battle. Like, who cares? After the boss that is dead, right? So there's a lot of those abilities. And there's a clear issue. It's a lot better than the original game. The original game had issues also with some classes being clearly better for some characters, no matter what team you're playing as. This game is the same thing, but it's less of that, so it's better balanced, but it still has some issues where, well, why would I play Dark Light when Dark is the same thing, but has like a 10 times better ability and better stats? So there's no and better passive now, so it's not advantage. So the game doesn't feel as polished there, and I think the game would be a 10 out of 10 game if it just had like a little better, system for the passives and a little more challenging gameplay, right? And I feel unfortunately modern games, today are like that, right? Just kind of have this right. But anyway, I'm gonna give the game a 9 out of 10, which I feel is great. I feel it's a good score for a remake game. Everything in the game is better, basically, right? There is just some policy issues and the multiplayer, which I feel is like, I'm not reducing the score too much for that, but it has to be said. And it's just sad that going away from that. But otherwise, yeah, it's just like the graphic issues, some of the balance issues, some weird bugs. It's just, basically, this is saying in Swedish, which is många bäckar små, which my grandfather used to say all the time. And that means that it's an idiom, of course, and it means that a lot of small lakes, like a lot of, a bäck is like a tiny lake or a little river, tiny river. And if you have a lot of them, it becomes an ocean, right? So it means like, yeah, if you have a lot of water ripples, and eventually it still becomes an ocean. I'm still giving the game 9 out of 10. I still love the game, recommending the game and so on, right? But I do feel that this is so, if it's again nitpicky, right? But it's like 20, 30 small issues, and they're all there. So you feel like the game isn't that 10 out of 10 perfect game, because it unfortunately lacks that, it's like 1 month extra polish, something like that, right? If they have developed the game just a little longer, maybe just polished the passes, polished the graphic and so on, the runtime and so on, I feel the game will be perfect. So it's a little bit like that. That has to be said, right? And this is ignoring the multiplayer aspect. But otherwise, a strong 9 out of 10. A great game. I recommend you playing it. I think it's fair that this game is probably around 40 hours of game time. for a new player and for a a big veteran player. I love the game. I'll say one thing. As soon as I beat the game, I immediately wanted to play the game once more with all the 3 characters, right, and play it through with them, and just experiencing their new backstories and testing the bosses and the modes, so on, and seeing the new passives, stuff like that, right, and the new outfits. So that to me is just a great indicator of a great game. You want to immediately start playing the game again, right? So anyway, press the subscribe button, press the like button, and I'll see you guys